Hello, Dr. Ibrahim. Hello.
Good evening, Dr. Peter.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Peter. Welcome. Good evening, Dr. Pharmacist.
Hello, Dr. Ibrahim.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you. Good evening. Yes, we can hear you.
Hello.
I said we can hear you. You are loud and clear.
We can hear you, sir. You can start. The presenter is already here.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Dr. Peter. Welcome. Good evening, Dr. Pharmacist.
Hello, Dr. Ibrahim.
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Good evening, distinguished colleagues. You are all welcome to yet another special interactive intercontinental CPAN clinical meeting. Today, we are going to be meeting one of our certifiers of specialist clinical pharmacy in the USA. It is going to be an interactive section. I want to use this opportunity to welcome everybody. You are all welcome to this special interactive section. I also want to welcome our PSN president, Professor Cyril Usifo. He's here with us. Prof, you are highly welcome to this special presentation. We are very grateful having you around us today. I also want to welcome Dr. Teresa Pounds, President NAPSA. Ma, you are very, very welcome to this presentation. Before we go further to welcome and to also recognize some of our very distinguished colleagues that have been coming in, I want us to start with an opening prayer. Dr. Ibrahim Bello, please can you help us with a short opening prayer so that we can proceed? Thank you.
Okay, in the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful, we give thanks to you, Almighty Allah, for giving us another opportunity to come together again to witness a very special edition of the CPAN clinical meeting. We pray for guidance and we pray for blessing. We trust in you. Amen. End of prayer.
Amen. Thank you so much, Dr. Ibrahim Bello, for that wonderful prayer. Thank you so much. We know that we had this kind of presentation 2 weeks ago with Dr. Teresa Pounds, Dr. Pamela Moye, and we had a very wonderful interaction. And then we thought it wise that we should have a kind of continuation of this kind of presentation, because we had issues. We wanted a situation whereby we can get the board certification also extended here in Nigeria, like what they are also enjoying there in the USA. We have very distinguished colleagues present here with us. I also want to recognize Professor Azuka Okwara, Chairman, CPAN Board of Trustees. Sir, you are very, very welcome. Welcome you to this presentation tonight. Our presenter is no other person than Dr. Brian Lawson. He is an Associate Executive Director, U.S. Board of Pharmacy Specialists. He's also a senior executive director, professional affairs and the international engagement, which he was throughout the period of January 2019 to March 2021. He was also a director, professional affairs between May 2012 and December 2018. He was an associate director, governance, American Pharmacists Association between January 2011 to April 2012. He's a senior manager governance. He was between the period of July 2009 to 2010. Also executive resident in association management and leadership foundation between the July 2008 to June 2009. We are really expecting a lot because right now he is the Associate Executive Director, U.S. Board of Pharmacy Specialty. This means a lot to us because we have been hearing a lot about the board certification that they have had right from time in the United States. So we are trying to see how we can extend such wonderful blessing right here in Nigeria. He's going to be talking to us about the glow trends in advanced pharmacy practice and the U.S. Board of Pharmacy Specialties certification. Before we start, I want to call on Dr. Teresa Pounds again. Ma, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, yeah, Ma, please, you are going to be our facilitator. They are your people all the way from the United States. So we want you to please start it for us and then tell us, in fact, introduce the whole program tonight. Thank you, Ma.
Thank you. Thank you for the wonderful invitation and also can everybody hear me? I hope you all can hear me.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, can hear you.
So thank you again for the opportunity for us who are in the diaspora to continue to bring ideas to my country, my hometown, on how we can continue to advance the clinical pharmacy program in Nigeria. So you rightfully mentioned that we started the discussion 2 weeks ago, whereby we had some of the practicing clinical specialists to kind of share with us what they do on a typical day, what their background is, and how did they get to where they got to. I think everybody pretty much knows me. I've been involved with advancement of clinical pharmacy program in Nigeria for the past 10 plus years, and I thank God for that opportunity. So today, what we want to do is listen to what Dr. Brian Lawson is going to tell us, because we have certain opportunities and pathways that we can go. He will focus mainly on what is the qualification for for taking the board certification. He will share a lot of very valuable information that I'm hoping that we can use to decide how do we go about it in Nigeria. So I think we are very, very fortunate to have somebody with his background, with his knowledge and his passion, and somebody who is also willing to support us to give back to Nigeria and to kind of help us move the pharmacy practice program forward in Nigeria. So I think I will hand over to Dr. Brian Lawson. I think let's just keep an open mind and then see how can we utilize this information to move forward. So Dr. Brian Lawson, again, welcome to this wonderful group. I think you're going to find out that you're dealing with a lot of very passionate clinicians, passionate people people who are willing to learn and willing to, and are very, very proud to be a pharmacist. I want to know how they can move to the next level. So Dr. Brian Lawson, up to you. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Teresa Pounds, and thank you to the organizing committee for thinking of me as someone to kind of speak to you about board certification. As Dr. Pounds had mentioned, I have a lot of interest in growing board certifications, not only in the US, but around the globe, and we'll talk some about that during my presentation today. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Of
Sure,
course,
yes.
You can share your screen.
Okay.
You can share your screen, sir.
Perfect. All righty. I think, can you see my slides?
Yes,
Yes.
you can see it. Yes,
We can.
clear.
You can see your slide.
You can or cannot, sorry.
We can.
Yes.
Perfect, perfect,
Yeah.
wonderful, wonderful. So today's conversation is really looking at the value of board certification. Why should you consider BPS board certification, and really talk about the certifications that we offer. We will also review some of the eligibility pathways for the exam, and then we'll also talk about the importance of maintaining board certification. So a little bit of background as our distinguished guest speakers referred. I have worked with BPS for almost 10 years now, and I've worked with the American Pharmacists Association for 3 years before that. And so the Board of Pharmacy Specialty was created by the American Pharmacists Association to recognize specialty areas in practice. And this is really at a time in which our colleagues in medicine, our physician colleagues, have already had completed board certification. So while we've been around for about 40 years, the medical specialties have really predate what we have done in the terms of specialization. We merged with the Geriatric Certification Board in 2017, and we have had transferred that credential to our portfolio of credentials. Here are all the certifications we offer. We started with nuclear pharmacy back in 1978, and you see in front of you nutrition support, pharmacotherapy, psychiatric pharmacy, oncology pharmacy, ambulatory care, critical care, pediatric pharmacy, geriatric pharmacy, cardiology pharmacy, infectious diseases pharmacy, compound shell preparations, solid organ transplantation pharmacy. So we have 13 board certifications in which we actively administer certification exams, and we are beginning to build our exams for emergency medicine, as well as look at and explore pain management as a specialty. So really quick, we are the Board of Pharmacy exams. Multiple choice question for you is, how many specialty areas does BPS currently offer pharmacists within? Anyone want to give me a number? So this is a little bit of a trick question. I mentioned that we currently administer exams in 13 areas, but we have 14 certifications in which we actually have recognized within BPS. So BPS is an organization member of the Council on Credentialing in Pharmacy here in the US. And this is a coalition of pharmacists that really define and articulate the value of credentials and provide information to the public about credentials. Foundational to the credentials are the degree programs. Many of you are familiar with the Bachelor of Science in Pharmacy degree, as well as the Doctor of Pharmacy degree, or the PharmD, which really leads to eligibility for licensure as well as registration to actually practice pharmacy. And then folks can also expand their knowledge and skills and experience through residency training, postgraduate degrees, fellowships, and other certifications that are interdisciplinary in nature. So in terms of the number of board certified pharmacists, we have about 54,000 primarily in the US, but also around the globe. Most of our pharmacists who are board certified hold the pharmacotherapy credential, which is highlighted here in the orange. And as the profession in the US and around the world continues to shift from product-centered to patient-centered. Pharmacists are less involved in the dispensing process. And really, this has been something that technicians and automations can do. And really, the idea of board certification is really to position pharmacists as a valuable member of the healthcare team responsible for clinical decision-making and empathy, and really working with our patients to make sure they're making the best use of their medications. Advanced pharmacy practice, as Dr. Pounds alluded to, really requires a higher scope of practice, and in some cases can be require prescriptive authority and other practice regulation changes to equip pharmacists to be a specialist in that area. But board certification really helps lend itself to that additional privilege. We have grown board certification not only in the US, but around the globe. This next chart here describes all the different countries in which we have pharmacist board certifications populated. Egypt is our largest country in which we have pharmacists board certified. A significant number of those hold the BCPS credential. We also have pharmacists in Saudi Arabia and Canada, the United Arab Emirates, Singapore, Spain, Hong Kong, Qatar, Australia, South Korea, Thailand, Malaysia, Kuwait, and Lebanon. And really, this chart here represents 14 of the more than 50 countries in which we have at least one board certified pharmacist. So our next question here is true or false. There are over 54,000 active certifications around the globe, and that is true. So for folks that are interested in sitting for the exam, there are some important resources that you should consider. First, there's the candidate's guide. It's basically what we use to highlight all the things you need to know prior to sitting for the exam. And then in addition to the candidate's guide, which navigates you through the exam process before, during, after, there's also the content outline, which serves as a blueprint for how our exams are built. Each specialty has a content outline that serves really as a syllabus to help guide or direct inform your study for the exam. And there are courses available here in the US that are built to help prepare pharmacists prepare for the exam. In addition, pharmacists in a lot of countries create their own study groups and work with each other as colleagues to study for those examinations. So I encourage you to go to our website, www.bpsweb.org, for more information about all the specialty areas. I've got here an example of the Pharmacotherapy credential, which provides information on eligibility, recertification requirements, as well as the most current content outline. I've touched on and talked about the content outline. And for pharmacotherapy, we have developed 3 domains in which that content outline highlights. Domain 1 is patient-centered pharmacotherapy. Domain 2 is application of evidence to practice. And then domain 3 is healthcare systems and population health. These areas in which we developed domains around help reflect the pharmacotherapy specialty and how it's evolved, and are ways in which you can help study for the exam as you prepare for it. We conduct a role delineation study for all the specialty areas every 5 years. And so these content outlines will change about every 5 years to reflect current pharmacy practice. Here's an example of the actual content outline. This content outline is for the psychiatric pharmacy or the mental health pharmacist. Each specialty exam has a separate content outline validated through a national or international survey of pharmacist specialists. And the content outline provides details on the major areas of responsibility for specialists. So they're broken down into domains and then subdomains. The domains are the responsibility areas in which are required for a specialist, and then the subdomains are the required areas to fulfill these responsibilities. And then each of our exam questions are actually tied to or linked to the specific domains and subdomains. In terms of eligibility pathways, we often hear questions from candidates about, well, I haven't completed a residency, or I have completed a residency, but I need to know how much more information do I need to prepare for to sit for the exam. And so there are a number of different pathways in which you can be eligible to sit for the exam. Completion of a PGY1 residency that's approved by SHP or the Canadian Residency Board Year 1, or the ASHP International Residency are one aspect of the eligibility criteria, but depending upon the specialty, you'll need an additional number of years to qualify after the residency. You also have to demonstrate that you graduated from a college or a faculty or a school of pharmacy in your jurisdiction, as well as provide information that you have a current active license or registration to practice pharmacy in the US or in your current jurisdiction. And then once you submit all of those documentations related to practice experience or residency or licensure or registration, our registrars will review your application, and then if they met the requirements, then you'll be able to sit for our exam. And then once you pass our exam, you can you'll be board certified. So the question here is it true or false? A pharmacist must complete residency to be eligible for board certification. And this might be a little tricky. And I see here in the chat, folks have put false. That is correct. False. You don't have to complete a residency, but residency is one part of the pathway. You can also become eligible for our exams through our practice experience pathway. So we created an infographic or a chart here for our international colleagues. So if you have your phone handy, be sure to pull this QR code to get access to this this visual here. It's also available on our website, but it really helps take a stepwise approach for what is the process to become board certified. And this particular graphic is applicable to whether you're in Africa, or in Nigeria, or even in Cairo. We have a number of pharmacists that are board certified in Saudi Arabia, or even in Australia. So it's the same requirements no matter where you live. This year we have 2 windows in which we administer our exams. Our registration process for our April and May exam will be closing in 7 days. So if you're interested in sitting for the exam in April and May, you'll need to get an application in within the next week. We also have a window in September and October in which you can sit for the exam, and that application process will open May 16th and will close August 3rd. In terms about the exam itself, once you are approved to sit for the exam, it's 175 questions, and there are multiple choice or alternate item types. You can take part 1, which is about 100 questions in about 2 hours and 30 minutes. There's a 30-minute optional break, and then you can take part 2 of the exam, which is about 75 questions, and you have about 1 hour and 53 minutes to complete that second part of the exam. It's all on your computer, so there is no manipulation of patients or any type of simulations. There will be calculators and timers available on your screen, and then the web-based technology will store all of your questions in real time. So as you're taking the exam, we store those questions within our database, and then there's a dry erase marker for you to do your calculations and make notes along the way. All of our exams are administered through a company called Prometric Test Centers. This is an organization that has test centers in the US and around the globe. And they've articulated to me that they do have test centers in Nigeria and in a couple other cities in West Africa. But as the demand for our exams increases in a location, then our partners with Prometric can work with the local organizations to set up test sites in those cities as needed. Once the test site is set up, you should go visit the test site and make sure you know where it's located. You're encouraged to be there 30 minutes before you are to take the exam to make sure you are familiar with the location. And then you should have a copy of the confirmation that we send you, as well as your valid photo identification to match your picture with your name, as well as with the confirmation within the email. In terms of scoring and reporting, once the exam window closes, we report the scores within 60 days of administration. And that's important because after we look at all the data and all the exams and all the scoring process, we want to make sure that we are fair to candidates. And so we actually do an analysis of the results before we send those out. We want to make sure there aren't any technology malfunctions, or if there was a question that was poorly written, we will actually throw that question out if there's evidence to suggest that it doesn't perform well amongst all of our candidate pools. So here's a list of all of the different pass rates for our exams. There's a range of a score between 200 and 800, and the minimum score to pass will be 500. And so that is important because we administer different forms of the exam. We have to equate those exams to a common score algorithm. As you can see here with pharmacotherapy, the pass rate is in the 70% rate, looking at 2019 spring all the way to fall of 2021. And then once pharmacists are past the exam, we will issue them a certificate, as well as add them to our roster of newly certified board certified pharmacists on the BPS website. So the other piece is after someone becomes board certified, you have to maintain your board certification over 7 years. And this is important because it documents a specialist's current knowledge and skills. It also represents the board certified pharmacist's commitment to career-long learning and continuous competence. Board certification really is a differentiator between earning a pharmacy degree, having your pharmacy license, and completing a residency program, because those are credentials in which you basically will maintain for life. But board certification really is time limited in the sense that you only hold the credential for 7 years, and then you have to renew that credential to prove that you have those requisite knowledge, skills, and experiences. So after you take the exam, you have two pathways to renew your certification. You can either complete the BPS Recertification exam, or you can complete professional development through one of our approved providers. You also will pay fees to BPS, as well as CE fees that are paid to the professional providers such as ASHP and ACCP. So the question here is that can you maintain your board certification valid indefinitely, or can you maintain those credentials forever? And the question is a little tricky, but yeah, the answer is false. So you can keep the credential for 7 years, but you have to renew that credential to maintain it. So as I mentioned before, there are two options to maintain the credential. You can either recert by exam, which is a 100 option, multiple choice, which is considered a high stakes exam, or the other option is to recertify by professional development. And you can accrue 100 to 120 hours of BPS approved CE in pharmacy, and especially areas in which align with a content outline. And those are really considered low stakes assessment through one of our providers. Here's a list of all of the certification areas and providers that are responsible for maintaining those professional development programs. I'm not sure if you're familiar with any of these, but for example, if you are holding the critical care pharmacy credential, then you would complete CE hours through the American College of Clinical Pharmacy, the American Society of Health System Pharmacists, or the Society of Critical Care Medicine. So this is a chart that articulates all the different programs and their providers for the recertification programming. So the next question here is around, board certification. Who cares? Well, really, patients want a board certified orthopedic surgeon performing knee replacement, right? So wouldn't you want a board certified cardiology pharmacist adjusting your blood pressure or your medications? Same thing with hiring managers. The job market in the US and around the globe is becoming more competitive. And really there's a mismatch between the available residency spots here in the US and the number of graduates. So board certification is becoming a preferred or required qualification for many clinical pharmacist positions, and allows them to help them negotiate job offers. Supervisors and managers also value board certification. Board certification may be required within the first number of years of practice to keep your position, and it also may lead to a promotion or raise for within your position. And your employer may also reimburse you for your exam or your maintenance fees, and may help with job security. And then finally, your peers and interprofessional colleagues also recognize board certification, because it's really the norm in medicine. As I mentioned earlier, medicine's been doing board certification for almost 80 years now. And other clinicians, nurses, nurse practitioners, registered or dietitians also recognize board certification. And then finally, your future self, continuous professional development and lifelong learning through maintaining your certification, developing career milestones and goals, and really making sure your knowledge is fresh. And so board certification helps you do that. The American Board of Medical Specialties had conducted some quantitative and qualitative consumer research. And what our consumers are telling us is that they really expect that pharmacists and doctors really participate in ongoing education and assessment throughout their careers. And that they feel like board certification equals a higher level of care, and that they should consider board certification when considering a doctor. So board certification, even for pharmacists, has a lot of parallels to some of this work. One of our employers here in the US, the University of Wisconsin, had conducted a case study example that looked at the requirements for board certification amongst our clinical colleagues. And really, they felt like the value of certification lied within the rigorously evaluated recertification courses that we require as a part of their maintaining their eligibility criteria. In the US, about 80% of physicians are board certified, compared to almost 10% of pharmacists in the US who hold a board certification. So you can see there's a discrepancy in terms of certification in the US in terms of physicians and pharmacists. But I do believe as pharmacists continue to demonstrate their value and patient-centered care, the number of board certified pharmacists will continue to grow and increase. In terms of the US, some of the reasons and drivers for board certification really include the complexity and pace of change in the healthcare system. As more and more drugs come onto the market and treatment guidelines continue to change, board certification helps a pharmacist maintain competencies in those areas. As I've articulated earlier, pharmacists are becoming more involved in patient-centered care and cognitive services. So board certification continues to be an important component of demonstrating and documenting our role in patient-centered care. Advanced pharmacy practices is continuing to evolve in the US and around the globe. And then, as I mentioned before, employers are seeking credentials for clinical physicians, in which hold those board certified pharmacists. Got a question here in the chat. A pharmacist whose specialty is diabetes care, in which area can they get board certified based upon the available categories listed below? That's a really good question. So within BPS, we look sort of at a population or a practice setting in which we look at our credentials. So if you are a pharmacist that works in a community setting or works in a pharmacy that's not in a hospital. Maybe AmCare Pharmacist is AmCare certification is the right certification for you. Conversely, if you are rounding with the medical team and seeing patients and reviewing charts, then a credential like pharmacotherapy or cardiology or one of the more inpatient or hospital-based focused credentials may be more appropriate for you. So this is a really good question about diabetes care. It's really, where are you seeing the patient? Are you seeing the patient in the hospital, or are you seeing the patient in the community? And if you're seeing the patient in the community, and ambulatory care is probably the best credential. If you're seeing the patient in the hospital, then pharmacotherapy would probably be the best credential. As we're seeing the pendulum swing from product-centered to patient-centered, FIP has been conducting some research on advanced practice and specialization in pharmacy, and they're also seeing the clinical patient-facing aspects of the profession continue to grow as the responsibilities and accountabilities for pharmaceutical care and patient care continues to increase in clinical environments. And so they're also articulating that there should be pathways for workforce development that needs to be aligned with recognized credentials of practitioners, such as board certification. And really this creates opportunities for transnational collaboration. So collaboration for folks in Africa with the US, and for folks in the US and Africa. And then finally, we have to continue to advocate for the recognition of advanced capabilities for the pharmacy workforce as the complexities of patients and their care continues to become, to grow and evolve. So in terms of the work we do within BPS and our goals and action steps, one of the overarching goals is to increase the access to board-certified pharmacists, not only in the US, but around the globe. And we want to expand the number of board-certified pharmacists within each of the 58 countries in which we already have at least one board-certified pharmacist. And then we also want to engage with emerging areas of pharmacy practice. So for example, in Spain, oncology pharmacy is a growing area of board certification in that country. And so we continue to cultivate those relationships in Spain to make sure that we can support their country's efforts in growing the number of oncology pharmacists in that countries. And so we do that by developing and sustaining relationship with our stakeholder organizations. We want to understand the education, licensure, and registration requirements of every country, and then obviously determine the needs of certificates, candidates, patients, and decision makers within that country. So as we think about emerging areas of clinical pharmacy and advanced pharmacy practice in West Africa, what are some of those areas that you guys can articulate? I see on the chat here someone had mentioned diabetes care, but what other areas do pharmacists work in clinical pharmacy and advanced practice in West Africa? And feel free to put that in the chat. I see a hand raised. Rosari, do you have a comment or a question?
No, not now. We could answer the questions at the same time, probably after the presentation, sir. So let's just take note of the questions. Perfect. Thank you.
So we'll take Rosari's question later, but I see here in the chat that oncology and mental health and anticoagulation clinics and psychiatric, pediatric, nuclear medicine, nephrology, cardiology, infectious diseases, emergency medicine. So really all the different specialty areas in which I've articulated earlier are growing areas in West Africa. So that's really helpful to know. Pharmacotherapy, thank you. Oncology, chemotherapy. So as I mentioned before, some of the trends that we're seeing on the international front is really trying to model or to replicate or to imagine the US model for education, training, and practice. So what we're seeing is a lot of countries adopting the Doctor of Pharmacy or the PharmD degree as a degree in their country. And they're also looking to adopt residency training based upon the standards from ASHP. One of the other aspects of trends that we're seeing are mentors and residency directors really encouraging learners to become board certified. We're seeing that board certification provides professional and career pathways. And then there's also some promotion, grade increases, and remuneration for folks that hold board certification. And then obviously, no matter where you live or work or pray, increasing your confidence and esteem and privilege when communicating with physicians and patients is an important part of board certification. I see a question here in the chat that asks about computer-based exams, and is it possible to take exams in another country? And that is true. Yes, we do have Prometric, who's our partnering organization, does administer exams in other countries through their relationships they've built in a home country. So as the slide before articulated, we have at least one board certified pharmacist in 59 countries, and more than likely they took that exam near or within their home country. It's another great question. So in terms of international drivers, Australia is another area in which pharmacists who hold the board certification in geriatric pharmacy or board certification pharmacotherapy specialties, they actually get an additional remuneration for conducting medication management reviews for holding those credentials. In Egypt, board certification is considered analogous to the master's degree in clinical pharmacy. In Spain, the society there has created scholarship opportunities for pharmacists who want to pursue board certification. And Thailand, they've already created their own residency training program, and they often will take the BPS certification exams to make sure that it benchmarks well with their residency training and own board certification process. And then in Thailand, within the hospital, specialist pharmacists, to be eligible to be a specialist pharmacist, board certification is considered a criteria in which it can be done. The question here is, can one write the exams from home? Yes. That's sort of the idea here is that in our candidates, for example, in Australia actually take the exam or write the exam in Australia. Our certificates in Egypt actually take the exam in Cairo and Alexandria and other cities within Egypt. In Spain, they take it in Madrid. They complete the exam, write the exam in Barcelona. And similarly in Thailand, there's sites in Bangkok and other large cities within Thailand. So yes, you can. The goal here is that we want to build relationships with other countries, and then so that way the pharmacists can take those and write those exams in their home country. So that's really all I have for this presentation part of the conversation. We are available. We do have access to Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn. I often will get questions from our international colleagues through Facebook and the Messenger. We also have a SoundCloud and have a YouTube channel for you to connect with us as well. So if there's any questions, for sure, feel free to work with us through our social media platforms. And then there's my email if you have any questions that you'd like to ask of me. So at this point in time, I'll open it up for questions for any of the participants on the call today.
Thank you very much.
Hello.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brian. Thank you very much for the presentation. That was a wonderful one. We appreciate, in no small way, we've been having a lot of conversations on board certification, and there is no best way of having this discussion tonight. I think a lot of us have actually gotten, more information, specifically from what you said. Board certification, can be achieved, from several angles. And the eligibility criteria you have stated tonight shows that once one is a pharmacist, he has his Pharm D or B Pharm, or he has done a residency pathway, or he has done maybe masters in clinical pharmacy. Each of them qualifies one for board certification, clearly like you have put it there. So it now means that either of them or one of the three, PG1, stage 1, or PG2, or 4 years focus experience, and 50% of that which must be spent in a focus area qualifies one for board certification. So I think that's one of the lacuna, one of the area that will benefit from, so that we can produce board certifications in due course relative to what is happening in the US, and will join the global trend, just as the topic has spelled out, in pursuing our clinical pharmacy dreams. So thank you once more for that presentation. Again, you said something about writing the exams at home. A lot of us actually would appreciate that in no small way. Now, I would open the question to one or two persons that have raised their hand. Rosary, she was actually trying to ask questions.
Hello, Dr. Peter.
Yeah.
Dr. Peter, please, I want us to give the PSM president an opportunity to respond, please.
Yeah,
he's online.
so that's wonderful.
He's online,
that
please.
Would be
can we have one. So, sir, please, Professor Osifo, please, can you come on board? Can you respond to this presentation? Thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. You're welcome, sir.
Okay, very good evening, and I welcome everyone, and thank Brian for the presentation. It's an eye-opener for a lot of us, and I'm sure most of us will truly appreciate the time spent and the opportunity to interact with us. I'm sure as we continue to brainstorm and ask questions, find solutions to some of those things, I believe we will know more about board certification and then be able to apply ourselves to what is needful. One question remains. When we are board certified, how do we apply that to our country so as to be able to contribute meaningfully to the development of the pharmacy profession and patient care, importantly? Have a wonderful deliberation and a wonderful evening. God bless you.
Thank you, Prof.
Much. Thank you.
We appreciate, Prof. That was a very good one for our PSM president, Professor Cyril Osifo. We appreciate you in no small way. I think this is the first time we would have a sitting PSM president consistently in our midst. In fact, our president attends meeting more than some of us. I think we need to take that challenge from him. We appreciate you, Prof, and we pray that God will bless you.
Yeah.
So I think at this point, let's take one or two questions, starting from the lady that was raising her hand, Rosary. She had wanted to ask some questions, after which we could take some other questions. So Rosary, can you come online and ask your question?
Sorry, thank you very much for the presentation. My question has been taken care of during the course of the presentation. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, okay, wonderful. Thank you very much about that. Dr. Madu, hello, sir.
Yes, I can hear you. Good evening.
Yes, sir. Yeah, at this point, I want to hear one or two words from you, sir. We haven't seen any other person asking questions, but I'm sure you have a lot. You may have one or two observations to make, before we can get some other people to ask questions, sir. You're welcome on board, sir.
Thank you very much. Let me use this opportunity to once again appreciate Dr. Brian Lawson for honoring our invitation to this interactive session. I think after this night, a lot will be happening in Nigeria as regards board certification. I will also like Dr. Lawson to know that in Nigeria currently, we have other forms of certification of specialists, especially that of West African Postgraduate College of Pharmacists. And we also have some board certified Nigerians working in Nigeria, but they were certified by US. We have some of them. Now, Clinical Pharmacists Association of Nigeria brings all of us together. And we have also started different. And so I've only been communicating with him in the past few days that the communication will continue. The lines of communication will continue. And there are certain things that probably may not be clear to us this night, but after this night, it will become better digested. And we will always come back to Dr. Brian. Let me also use the opportunity to appreciate the PSM president, who is our special guest of honor this night. Just as you have said, he has always been there for us. May God continue to keep him for us. And
Amen.
Then our facilitator too, Dr. Teresa Pounds. She has always been the link, being president of NAPSA and also resident in the US. So Dr. Brian, good evening, sir, once more. I want to say that through this the action this night, we have extended our hands of fellowship to US Board of Pharmacy Specialties. And we want you to regard Nigeria as one of those countries that would be on your agenda, that you ensure that the global trends also rest very well in this country. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. That is our full chairman, CPAN, untiring member, untiring chairman. I don't know what CPAN would have been or clinical pharmacy in Nigeria without Dr. Madu. Sometimes I get to wonder where he gets his energy and his drive. I pray that all our efforts in CPAN will continue to yield fruits just like we continue to see. So I think I've seen 3 people raising their hands. I would like to start with our secretary, Dr. Solomon. Please keep it very brief so that we could have some information from Dr. Teresa Pound and Dr. Abdul Mumuni Isa. So 3 of you have been recognized. Let's start from Dr. Solomon. Please, a quick one. Thank you.
Thank you so much, moderator. Thank you, Dr. Brian Lawson. Thank you, our PANS, our PSN president. He has always been there. He made the promise and he's doing it. Thanks a lot, the moderators. And let me go straight to the question. My first question is, how much will it cost to be certified? Number 1. Number 2, how can it going to be paid? Is it instrumentally or once? Number 3, if certified, can the person work in states or any other part of the country in the world that does the same certification? Finally, when are you taking off in Nigeria? Thank you.
Is it okay, Dr. Brian? Can you attend to that briefly, sir?
Yes. So I think the cost has been put in the chat, but it's 600 USD, and we've made it $600 for probably 20 years. I don't know if it's really changed in 10 or 15 or 20 years, but 600 USD. Unfortunately, board certification doesn't give you the privilege to practice in the US because we are not affiliated with the licensing board. Obviously, as you probably know, pharmacy license is really administered by each state. So I live in Washington, D.C. It has its own state license. I also live from West Virginia. It has its own state license. Each of the 50 states and territories have their own licensing and registration process, which is separate from what we do. So, and the last question is, yes, I would love to come visit. Just give me the invite.
Thank you very much for the short answer you have given. I would like our able Dr. Teresa Pound, who is our mother and who has always been there for clinical pharmacy in Nigeria. We appreciate you and we want to have your comments, ma.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Brian, for that excellent presentation. It's exactly what I expected. I would just like to say that as a clinician and also as president of NAPSA, and as you also know, of WASPEN, we will continue to work with this group to ensure that we address this advancement of clinical pharmacy. So that was one of the reasons why Brian and have Brian here. So there are a lot of questions still, I know, but I think a lot of the questions previously have now been addressed. Most of them, at least. So I just want to make that point and let you all know there's more coming. There's some more ideas that NAPSA has, and I'm working with Tomadu on that to kind of see where we go from the next level. So Brian and I will continue. We'll talk a little bit more offline as to what more we can do to continue to help our organization. So I just wanted to make that point. Again, Brian, thanks for great presentation. All right.
Thank you very much, Dr. Teresa Pound. Thank you for your energy, for your creativity, and for the time that you put to advance the course of clinical pharmacy in Nigeria and in Africa. I pray that your tenure as NAPSA is probably going to take us to the place we have never been before. So we appreciate all you've been doing for us, and I pray God is going to give you all that you require from life. At this point, I'd like to call Dr. Abdul Mumini, if you could ask 1 or 2 questions. Dr. Abdul Mumini Isa, you have the floor.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity, Dr. Peter Alphonsus. My comment stems from what the PSM president said earlier and from the response that Dr. Brian Lawson gave just now. The board certification, to my understanding from the presentation tonight, is about improvement in clinical skills for pharmacists to be able to provide better direct patient care to their patients. Now, I'm aware that the needs of patients, perhaps in the United States, may not be the same with that of patients in Nigeria. The availability of the equipment, the technological advancement and things that we have in the US may be different from what we have in Nigeria. So I'm thinking that if the board certification is not necessarily a form of a license to practice in the US, but for an advancement in the skills of the pharmacists, how can we consider a collaboration between the PSN, the CPAN, and even the West African College of Pharmacists and the board in the US, so that we can domesticate the certification for pharmacists in Nigeria, domesticate in the sense that whatever we're going to have should be something that will align with our patients while maintaining international best practice. Because you could have the competencies to practice and do very well in the United States, for instance, and you come to Nigeria and you come to a hospital where you don't have these facilities, you don't have these opportunities, and your knowledge may not be of use to your patients. Because at the end, like the president said, no matter how good you are, no matter how satisfied you are, how does it translate to better patient service in Nigeria? That's my comment.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much for the question. Dr. Brian Wells, I think you can attend to the question, sir.
Sure, I'll try to take a stab at it, but you know what we're recognizing is that there's probably a lot more commonalities than differences in how practice is the practice of pharmacy in our countries. I can even tell you within the states, because of the formularies and you know, certain hospitals may only carry certain drugs, but that shouldn't change what a pharmacist should know about the treatment guidelines and the medications that are available. And I can tell you our Australian colleagues also have similar things they have to navigate in terms of what's available in their country and what's available in the US, but they're also able to know how to convert those thinkings. And so that's really what's expected out of, from what I understand, expected out of what someone that holds this credential, that they're able to still take care of patients with the medications that they have access to based upon the treatment guidelines, but also make changes based upon local or hospital requirements.
Okay, thank you, sir, for that answer. I'm sure we may have 1 or 2 other persons that have 1 or 2 questions. So I would like to just take a look at the chat in case if there is 1 or 2 other questions that have not been answered, you know, before we quickly, you know, round the meeting up. So at this point, I just want to take a brief look at the chat in case there's something we haven't attended to. If I can see or you see before me, you could just see that. Yeah.
Hello, Dr. Peter.
Yeah, Dr. Timipre.
Yeah, I was thinking since Professor Azuka Okora is here.
Okay, he's around?
Yeah, he is. So
Okay,
can he also
fine.
respond? Can we give him a chance?
Sure, fine, sure, excellent. At this point, we're even looking for 1 or 2 persons to ask questions. So I think we could have Professor Opara, then I'll have Felicia, Namdi, and Dr. Ejiro. So at this point, let's, Professor Opara,
Yeah, thank you.
All you, sir.
Thank you, Peter. And thank you, Dr. Brian. Thank you, Dr. Teresa Pounds, and my president, and all the other participants. And it has been a good evening for all of us. The conversation this evening has been quite enlightening, and that's actually the direction to go. The global trend is for professionals to specialize, and pharmacists in Nigeria will not be an exception. So we are going to put all the information gathered this evening into use. Especially, we already have an institution, West African Postgraduate College, starting specialty areas in pharmacy practice. And the examination conducted last year was based on specialty areas. And this year, we are going to introduce more specialties. In the US, Dr. Brian talked about 13 or 14 areas of specialization. We move gradually based on the facilities and the personnel that are available here. Of course, generally, it is the generalists that produce the specialists, and the specialists will produce subspecialists. So I believe that with time, we will get there. So let's keep all the efforts concerted. And the important thing is let us begin to put into practice what we learn. And I think that will help us. So on that note, I thank you for the opportunity to have the conversation with us in this meeting. Good night.
Okay. Thank you, our Honorable Professor of Clinical Pharmacy. Professor Okpara has been one big factor in the advancement of clinical pharmacy in Nigeria, especially with his book, his medical book of, yes. So at this point, I will have Felicia Williams, Professor Dr. Felicia Williams, if she could just make one or two quick contributions.
Good evening, everyone. My president, PSM president, Professor Sifo, my teacher, Professor Okpara, our speaker tonight. We appreciate the presentation. And of my teacher, Dr. Teresa Pounds, and all previous individuals that have commented. Like Professor Okpara mentioned, the generalists produce the specialists, the specialists, subspecialists. You find that in the course of one's career, you may be interested or be involved in more than one of in that situation. In what area we won't get the certification? Take, for instance, one may be interested in infectious diseases and oncology, where one be certified in the specialty. Thank you.
It's okay. Thank you, my presenter. Can you quickly give that an answer, sir? Dr. Diane?
Yes, I heard part of the question, but I think the question is as we continue to evolve between generalists to specialists and subspecialization, which credential, where do we land? And so the chart here on the screen really describes all the different options, but for folks within the pharmacists in the hospital setting, pharmacotherapy is analogous to internal medicine. So if you're an internal or a general specialist, then you can, or generalist, pharmacotherapy will kind of cover all of the areas in pharmacy practice. And then if you are looking to be, if someone's an ID specialist in particular, then there's ID, there's cardiology as options as well. So it really depends upon how long you spend taking care of those patients. And here in the US, we have some pharmacists that spend their entire practice working with infectious disease pharmacists, and that credentials would be better suited for them than, say, a generalist that was, or an internal medicinist that would see all types of different patients.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you very much for the answer. I've seen cases of one pharmacist that has 2 or 3 or more board certifications. You could see a pharmacist with board certified pharmacotherapy specialist and equally having 1 or 2 other specialties by their names. Thank you, sir. At this point, we will quickly have Dr. Namdi. Dr. Namdi Wako, are you there? Quickly. Hello, Dr. Namdi Wako.
Okay, Pharmacist Nnamdi Nwankwo. Good evening, everyone.
You're fine.
Good evening.
Please, quick one.
My question, my concern has been, how do we domesticate this program, voice certification in Nigeria? How do we, especially the young pharmacists, how can we benefit from it? How do we align to it? Because
it's okay.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much.
Okay, okay, thank you. I think it's similar to the question that somebody has asked before. So he would take that, but along with Dr. Omolala Nwakuma. Nwakuma.
Good evening, everybody. All protocols duly observed.
Is Omolala Nwakuma there?
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
she's talking already.
Okay,
yeah,
quick one.
I'm already talking. Yeah.
Straight to the
Good evening,
questions.
everybody. Yeah, my question goes to what type of collaboration?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. What type of collaboration are you thinking of having with us? I'll give you an example. Some years ago, I went to the US for a pharmacy exposure, for a 1-month pharmacy exposure. Will your collaboration with us involve things like that, the 1-month pharmacy exposure, to see hands-on experience on specialists in the US so that we can come back to Nigeria and see how we can fit this practice into our own practice setting? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, so this exam is administered in the home country. This is not a pharmacy practice experience where you would come to the U.S. for a month. And I'm familiar with those type of models. They do those in Thailand. That's typically done between the schools and colleges and universities of pharmacy, where they do these exchanges to get experiences. And in Thailand in particular, they actually have something called the US Thai Consortium, where pharmacists in Thailand come to the US, they practice, say, critical care for a month or two, and then they go back to Thailand and figure out how do they implement those practices in their home country. And so those programs do exist, but that would be a separate program than what we're talking about here tonight.
It's okay, sir. Then I think the other point, she was talking about domestication, the other speaker before her. I think that's the last question.
No, it's a really good question. I mean, some of our international colleagues, we've broached that topic before, but I guess the question is are we talking about looking at pharmacy practice in a country, or looking at an international standard? In a lot of ways, a lot of the countries that we work with are looking for a higher standard, international standard that they can achieve. And so, you know, we've sort of broached those type of local topics, but I think that's something you guys can do probably on your own. You know, you wouldn't need us to do that, but if you're looking to have an international standard that looks at what's going on in different countries, then we can help with that.
It's okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Lansing. So at this point, we just want to have a final one from Dr. Teresa Pound before we actually come to an end in this presentation. So Dr. Teresa Pound.
Yeah, thank you again. And I just want to address that last question, looking at what is Nigeria trying to do, and in terms of having it available in terms of the standards. That's where, and I don't know if there's somebody from, I hope Professor Farah is there, there's already some talk about the kind of not really improving the current fellowship program with the West African, but moving it up to the next level, whereby there's more exposure to the practice and using the international pharmacy practice standards. So there's work already with ASHP, which is actually the organization that is governs all the residency program here. So I think you guys will hear more about that. That would kind of address the direction that Nigeria is going in terms of making all this available in Nigeria. So stay tuned with that. And I think you already addressed the question about, okay, one person can have board certification in more than, you know, they can be board certified in like pharmacotherapy, for those of you who are practicing internal medicine, more of a generalist, or you can be oncology and critical care, you know. But I just also want to end by saying that the new direction you have now with CPAN, whereby you have the different groups, you have cardiology, you have nutrition, you have all that. One of the things that I would strongly suggest that that group looks at is a way to get board certified. And I think Brian shared some of ideas with you guys, you know, so that should be one of, if you're looking at the charter of what each group should be looking at, is how can we make it whereby the people can be board certified. And we also need to look at different ways to be able to pay for that or really finance the board certification. So I really do hope that the presentation we had today has really opened our minds to a lot of different ways. So again, as NAPSA, I'll be working with the PSM president. We've had a lot of very good discussions in terms of how can we collaborate to make sure that we continue to move in the direction. I've had a lot of those discussions with Dr. Madu, and of course, I'll continue to have discussion with Dr. Brian Lawson. So we just need to, we've started, and we just need to keep moving that way. So again, thanks for the opportunity, and I'm sure we're heading in the right direction. Very, very
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Dr. Teresa Pound, you're always having the ideas, and you're always bringing it out and explaining it in better ways. Thank you again for the whole thing you have done for us. At this point in time, I think we are almost coming to an end. If there's anybody we have not appreciated, that is what being appreciated, we appreciate you all. We cannot acknowledge everybody in this short presentation. At this point, Dr. Timi Pre.
Yeah.
Hello, Dr. Timi Pre. Yeah, I want you to give some final note appreciation to Dr. Brian Lawson, you know, before we come to an end, and you get somebody to do the prayer, or you do a prayer for us yourself.
All right,
Someone
thank you very much.
question,
Oh, someone has a question. Who? Is someone asking a question?
Yeah, someone asked a question on the chat box.
Okay,
and Professor Wanan, I didn't hear anything about Professor Wanan. Is he not with us tonight?
No, sir, he's not. I've not seen him. I've not seen him on the chat.
He told me he will be here. He will be with us.
He's not in the chat.
In the meeting.
Yeah.
He's not in the meeting.
We actually appreciate Professor Wanan.
Yes, we appreciate him so much. I wanted, I was actually hoping we could hear something from Pharmacist Adekunle Someti. I saw a message from him in the chat box. Sir, please, if you are there, please can you just respond to all this that we've been having this night?
Firstly, I want to say good evening to everybody, and to thank Brian Lawson for your brilliant presentation. I think, like my president said, President Pounds, we are looking in the right direction. I think the question that concerned me the most, Lincoln, I'll call you right back. I'm in the CE program at the moment. That I thought me and my colleagues who are independent pharmacy owners here in the US can offer assistance is the 1 month experiential arrangement program that I thought I heard that the last person has said. Yes, as long as a pharmacist is able to get themselves here to the US, I think I can make arrangements depending on where they are to get them to a place where any of our members at NAPSA in a B2B group, where we can arrange for them to have an experiential experience for that 1 month period. It's something that I will discuss with our president, President Pounds, and also our president-elect, who is also the chair of the B2B group, Emmanuel E-Dog. We can work together to make this a reality so that we can provide opportunities for our pharmacists from Nigeria to be more skilled and more prepared for them when they register to take this examination. So I want to submit that to everyone here And I want to thank you for the opportunity that you've given me this evening. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Thank you very much, sir. We are very willing and happy to work with you. We've been working with you, all of you in the diaspora. Thank you so much. We really appreciate, and we like to work more with you. I'm sure with Dr. Teresa Pounds being the link, we know that a lot is going to be happening now, after now. So at this point, I'll call on the National Secretary, Dr. Martin Hart. Please give us vote of thanks and also conclude with prayer. Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Martin Hart Olulawa.
Good evening, everyone. It's been a very
Secretary.
interesting session tonight.
Yes, we can hear you, ma'am.
Yes, good evening. I'm here. I've been enjoying the session for tonight. We sincerely thank all our speakers for tonight, Dr. Brian, Dr. Teresa Pounds, the moderators, PSN president, everyone that has shown up tonight. CPAN is really going places, and clinical pharmacy in Nigeria will get to the top. We will get the it has been a huge, and with us been a part of this, we'll continue to do more, even more than we hoped. I hope I'm being audible because the network in my
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you, ma'am. Just go ahead.
area is a bit bad. It's raining every.
Okay.
Hello, good evening.
We can hear you, ma'am. Just go ahead.
We can hear you.
Okay, I didn't know. So let's have the prayer. We thank Almighty Allah for bringing us as we seek to put our plans in action and for Him to help us to get it to fruition. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very
so
much.
everyone. We'll be having presentation.
We appreciate
next
everybody
week.
that attended this meeting tonight.
Yes, hoping to see you next week. Thank you so much. Good night.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Dr. Brian, thanks, Teresa Pounds. Kule Tometi.
Good night, everyone. Good night.
Thank you, everyone, and good night.
It was a nice session.
Good night.
Night.
Thank you, Dr. Brian. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, everyone. Excellent presentation. Thanks so much.
Everyone go to your specialty and work so that it can work like
others. Yes. Good night.
Good night. Have a lovely night rest.